Coming live from the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on the Auraria campus, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for listening to All Sports through Met Radio on mymetmedia.com, live every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. This is your host, Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, and college football. So before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. To start off with Major League Baseball, Giants manager Bruce Bochy now has 2,000 career wins as a Giants manager after the Giants beat the Red Sox on Wednesday, September 18. Over the course of Bruce Bochy's career as a manager, he's had such a great career. He has many milestones and highlights from his career as a manager. 2019 will be the last season Giants manager Bruce Bochy manages for the Giants and in Major League Baseball. At the end of the 2019 season, Bruce Bochy will be retiring from Major League Baseball as a manager, and we're going to have to wait and see going into the future. But with the resume that Bruce Bochy has as a manager for the Giants, the Padres, and everything he's done as a manager for the Giants and in the past, if you look at that resume, there's no doubt going into the future that Bruce Bochy can see himself in Cooperstown with all the other legend managers that had a great career as a manager in Major League Baseball. So we're going to have to wait and see if Bruce Bochy makes it into Cooperstown in the future. Pete Alonso, Enwin Suarez, Jorge Soler, Mike Trout, Cody Bellinger, and Christian Yelich have hit over 40 home runs this season. Pete Alonso has currently hit 49 home runs this season. He just needs one more, and he has hit 50 home runs this season. So there's no doubt we're going to see Pete Alonso hit over 50 home runs this season. And with the type of season that Pete Alonso has been having for the Mets and as a rookie, there's no doubt that Pete Alonso is going to be National League Rookie of the Year. Enwin Suarez has hit 47 home runs, so he's almost to 50 home runs. Jorge Soler has been making his way up this list, and he has now hit 45 home runs. Mike Trout has hit 45 home runs, but Mike Trout is out for the rest of the season, and he will miss the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Cody Bellinger has hit 45 home runs. He's a candidate for National League MVP, so we're going to have to wait and see how many more home runs Cody Bellinger hits and how he performs for the rest of the regular season and going into the postseason. Because there's no doubt that the Dodgers are making it into the postseason. They already clinched a playoff spot and they have won the National League West. And Christian Yelich is out for the rest of the season, but he hit 44 home runs this season. So we're going to have to wait and see if anybody else joins Pete Alonso of hitting 50 or more home runs this season. But with this list having these names, and all these individual players have hit over 40 home runs this season, this is amazing. Now we got to see if they can hit over 50 home runs. Maybe get up to 55 or 60 home runs. But there's still 2 weeks left of the regular season. So right now I'm going to update you with the current Rockies schedule from this past week. And I'm also going to tell you who the Rockies go against in the next week. So to start off, this past week, in the last game of the Rockies-Cardinals series, the Rockies lost the last game to the Cardinals here at Coors Field 3-10. But overall, the Rockies were able to win the series against the Cardinals during the week and take 2 games from the Cardinals. The Rockies were able to win the first and second game 2-1, and they only lost the last game. So that was great that the Rockies were able to win a series against a team that's contending for a playoff spot and a team that's trying to win their division. This past weekend, the Rockies had a 3-game series against their divisional rival, the Padres, here at Coors Field to continue their 9-game homestand here at Coors Field. In the first game, the Rockies won the game 10-8. In the second game, the Rockies won a close game 11-10. And in the final game of the series, the Rockies were able to win the game 10-5. So overall, the Rockies were able to take this series from the Padres, and they were able to sweep the Padres. So this was great that the Rockies were able to win a couple games in the last week, especially by beating the Cardinals that are fighting for a playoff spot, and they beat the Padres, a team that they should beat. Now to finish off their 9-game homestand here at Coors Field and their last long homestand of the regular season here at Coors Field, the Rockies went against the Mets in a 3-game series. In the first game, the Rockies won the game 9-4. In the second game, the Rockies lost the game 1-6. And in the final game of the series, the Rockies lost the game 4-7. So overall, the Mets won this series, but the Rockies were able to take 1 game from the Mets. Now that this 9-game homestand has concluded here at Coors Field, the Rockies hit the road and go against their divisional rival, the Dodgers, down in Los Angeles this weekend in a 3-game series. And then they continue their final road trip of the regular season up to San Francisco. And the Rockies go against their divisional rival, the Giants, in a 3-game series. So the Rockies' final road trip of the 2019 season is against the Dodgers in a 3-game series and against the Giants in a 3-game series. So their final road trip is a 6-game road trip against their divisional rivals. And then to conclude the final series in the final 3 games of the 2019 season for the Rockies return back to Coors Field in the final weekend of September. And in the final 3-game series, which is the final weekend of the 2019 regular season for the Rockies, and the Rockies go against the Brewers here at Coors Field to conclude the 2019 season for the Rockies. So hopefully in the Rockies' final road trip and in their final games here at Coors Field, they can win some of these games and end the 2019 season on a high note and turn the page to 2020 and look forward to having a better season in 2020 compared to the season they had in 2019. So that's the current Rockies schedule of the final scores and the teams the Rockies went against this past week and who the Rockies go against in the next week. So right now I'm going to update you with the current Major League Baseball standings and playoff picture in the American and National League. So to start off in the American League East, right now the Yankees are leading this division. It's very likely they will win the American League East. In the American League Central, right now the Twins are leading this division, but the Indians are only 4 games behind the Twins for the American League Central. And in the American League West, right now the Astros are leading this division, and it's very likely the Astros are going to win this division. Now looking at the American League wild card, this is definitely an interesting race. In the first wild card spot, the Athletics are currently holding on to this spot by a 2-game lead. But in the second wild card spot is the Rays. But the Indians are only a half a game back from the Rays for that second wild card spot. In the National League East, right now the Braves are leading this division, and it's very likely the Braves are going to win their division. In the National League Central, right now the Cardinals are leading this division, but don't count out the Cubs and the Brewers quite yet. They're only 3 games back from the Cardinals for the National League Central. And in the National League West, the Dodgers already won the division. Now looking at the National League wild card, in the first wild card spot, right now the Nationals are holding on to this spot by a game and a half. But in the second wild card spot, the Cubs and the Brewers are tied for the second wild card spot. A few teams that are looking from the outside and they're still contending for the 2 National League wild card spots is the Mets, but they're 3 games back, the Phillies, but they're 3.5 games back, and the Diamondbacks, but they're 4.5 games back. But looking at the National League wild card, it looks like it's going to come down to the Nationals, Cubs, and Brewers. So what to watch for going into this weekend, going into next week, and going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season? You definitely need to keep an eye on the race in the American League Central, but especially in the National League Central, because we got a 3-team race between the Cardinals, Cubs, and Brewers. But you also want to keep an eye on the race for the 2 wildcard spots in the American League and in the National League. But the 3 teams you definitely want to keep an eye on is the Cardinals, Cubs, and Brewers. They're going to be fighting for the National League Central, or they're going to be fighting for the wildcard spots in the National League. So that's the current Major League Baseball standings and playoff picture in the American and National League. In the Major League Baseball power rankings, the current top 10 Major League Baseball teams are the Yankees, Astros, Dodgers, Braves, Twins, Rays, Athletics, Cardinals, Nationals, and Indians. These are the top 10 teams you definitely want to keep an eye on going into this weekend, going into next week, and going into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. All 10 of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot in the American or National League. There's only 2 weeks left of regular season baseball. The beginning of the postseason, the end of the regular season, is just around the corner. And once the end of September comes, it's time for some postseason baseball once October begins. So we're going to have to wait and see what teams get into the playoffs and what teams get a spot in the postseason this year. But postseason baseball is just around the corner. And the end of the regular season is coming to an end. So October is a great time of year since we got some postseason baseball happening. And we're going to have some great teams in the postseason in the American and in the National League wanting to reach the World Series and win this year's World Series. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. Tom Brady has moved into a tie for the second most regular season wins in NFL history. Tom Brady has moved into a tie with Drew Brees for the second most touchdowns in NFL history. Only Peyton Manning is in front of Tom Brady and Drew Brees for the most touchdowns in NFL history. Adrian Peterson passed Jim Brown and moved into fifth for the most rushing touchdowns in NFL history. Juju Smith-Schuster passed Randy Moss as the youngest player to reach 2,500 receiving yards. Julio Jones passed Roddy White for the most receiving yards in Falcons history. Russell Wilson now has 200 career touchdown passes in 114 career games. Lamar Jackson is the first player in NFL history to throw for 272 yards and rush for 120 yards in a game. In Lamar Jackson's first 2 games this season, he has thrown for 596 yards, he has thrown 7 touchdowns, he has rushed for 127 yards, he has 0 turnovers, and he has won the first 2 games for the Ravens. Now looking at Lamar Jackson, this is the reason why the Ravens moved on from Joe Flacco and why Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for the Broncos. Last year, the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson with the 32nd pick in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. The Ravens knew that quarterback Lamar Jackson was very talented and that he's a special player. He was a great quarterback in college, and they knew he was going to be a great quarterback in the NFL for their team. So the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson, and at the middle of last season, the Ravens turned the football from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens let Lamar Jackson carry the Ravens at the halfway point of last season to the end of the regular season. Now, Lamar Jackson started a few games for the Ravens last season, and he played great. They won a few games. They even got into the playoffs, and they got the last wild card spot in the AFC, but unfortunately they lost to the Chargers in the wild card round in the playoffs last season. But this season, in the first 2 games for Lamar Jackson, he's been such a great quarterback. He looks like an elite quarterback, and he's definitely going to have a lot of potential for the Ravens this season and going into the future. So there's no doubt that the Ravens knew Lamar Jackson is their franchise quarterback going into the future. And so far, it's been great for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson wants to continue his success for the rest of the season, but the Ravens also want to win a lot of games, win their division, the AFC North, but they also want to get into the playoffs and advance far in the playoffs. So we're going to have to wait and see how Lamar Jackson and the Ravens perform for the rest of the season. But so far, it's been great for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Kyler Murray and Cam Newton are the only 2 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw for 300 plus yards in their first 2 NFL games. Drew Brees has a torn ligament in his throwing thumb, and he will need surgery on his thumb. Drew Brees will likely be out for the next 6 weeks. This is definitely a huge loss for the Saints, since Drew Brees is their franchise player, their franchise quarterback. He's also their best player on offense and for the Saints. the Saints are definitely going to miss quarterback Drew Brees for the next few weeks. The Saints are hoping that Drew Brees can recover a little bit faster so he can get back on the field for the Saints. Now we're going to have to wait and see how the Saints play, especially on offense. But with the Saints being without Drew Brees at the quarterback position and having a different quarterback start for them, we're going to have to wait and see if the Saints can win some games for the next few weeks. But this is definitely going to hurt the Saints since they don't have Drew Brees. And their chances of winning games has definitely went down. And this can hurt them later on this season as they're trying to get into the playoffs. Ben Roethlisberger will need surgery on his elbow and he will be out for the rest of the season. This is a huge loss for the Steelers since they will be without their starting quarterback, one of their best players on offense, and without their franchise quarterback for the rest of the season. So the chance of the Steelers having a winning season, winning their division, and getting into the playoffs is very slim now since they have to turn the page and have a different quarterback start for the Steelers. So it's very likely the Steelers will not win many games for the rest of the season, and they won't be that great on offense since they don't have their quarterback on the field playing for the Steelers. With the Steelers not having Ben Roethlisberger, this is definitely going to hurt the Steelers, especially on offense. So we're going to have to wait and see if the Steelers can win a few games for the rest of the season and what type of season the Steelers are going to have. This past weekend, Antonio Brown made his Patriots debut against the Dolphins down in Miami, and the Patriots were able to go down to Miami and blow out their divisional rival, the Dolphins, 43-0. So this is only the beginning of Antonio Brown with the Patriots. We're going to have to wait and see if Antonio Brown plays and lasts for the rest of the season. But if he does, this dynamic duel between Tom Brady and Antonio Brown can be very great if he has Antonio Brown at the wide receiver position. With Tom Brady and the Patriots winning Super Bowl 53, they definitely want to win back-to-back Super Bowls and win Super Bowl 54. There's no doubt that Tom Brady and the Patriots are going to have a great season and be great on offense. Tom Brady has a lot of weapons to throw to. He has a lot of great wide receivers. And adding Antonio Brown to the mix, it's going to make Tom Brady even better. And Antonio Brown's going to be great. We know what Tom Brady can do. We know what Antonio Brown can do. There's a reason why Tom Brady's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and why Antonio Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So we're going to have to wait and see how Tom Brady and Antonio Brown play this season for the Patriots. But if they play great, this Tom Brady and Antonio Brown dynamic duel can be one of the best dynamic duels that Tom Brady has had on offense for the Patriots throughout his career. The Giants bench Eli Manning and they named their rookie quarterback Daniel Jones their starting quarterback going forward. Now we knew during the offseason when the Giants drafted Daniel Jones, going into training camp, going into the preseason, and now going into the regular season, we knew sometime this season the Giants were going to move on from Eli Manning and switch to Daniel Jones. But we didn't know when it would happen. But now it's going to happen in week 3 of the regular season. The Giants have now officially turned the page from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones. The Giants are hoping that rookie quarterback Daniel Jones can be their franchise quarterback going into the future. So now the Giants want to see what Daniel Jones can do at the quarterback position this season, but they also want to see if he can win some games and be their franchise quarterback going into the future. If this is the end of Eli Manning in New York for the Giants, as a Giants quarterback, Eli Manning has 56,537 passing yards, 362 passing touchdowns, 241 interceptions, a record of 116-116. He is a 4-time Pro Bowler, and he is a 2-time Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP for the Giants. Now looking at the quarterbacks in the NFL, we're going to have a lot of new faces starting at the quarterback position for a few teams this week and for the next few weeks. In week 1, Jaguars quarterback Nick Foles got injured. He may miss a few weeks, but there's a possibility he may miss the rest of the season. Ben Roethlisberger got injured in week 2. He's going to miss the rest of the season. Drew Brees got injured in week 2. He's going to miss a few weeks. The Giants bench Eli Manning, and they turn the page to rookie quarterback Daniel Jones. Lamar Jackson has definitely been a surprise to the NFL and to the Ravens. He's very talented. He's been showing off his talents, and he has a lot of potential for the Ravens this season and going into the future at the quarterback position for the Ravens. Patrick Mahomes has been having a great season so far. We all know who Tom Brady is. So there's going to be a few teams that are going to have a new starting quarterback for the next few weeks or for the rest of the season. So these quarterbacks that are going to be replacing elite quarterbacks in the NFL are going to have an opportunity this week and going forward to show what they're capable of and show their potential for that team in the NFL. The Steelers traded a 2020 first-round pick to the Dolphins in exchange for safety Milken Fitzpatrick. The Cowboys released defensive end Tico Charlton. The Lions released running back C.J. Anderson. The Broncos lost to the Bears 14-16 in their home opener on Sunday, September 15 in Denver. Now looking at the Broncos-Bears game, on offense for the Broncos, they didn't play that great on offense, and they weren't really able to score a lot of points. In the times that they got into the red zone, they couldn't score touchdowns, and it was field goals. Just like I was saying last week and for the last few weeks, the Broncos are not going to win games by field goals. The Broncos are going to have to score touchdowns if they want to win games. And that's for every team in the NFL, not just for the Broncos. You have to score touchdowns. Field goals will not win games for you, unless it's a close game. But in general, field goals do not win games. both the Broncos and the Bears were very solid on defense, and both the Broncos and the Bears played great on defense. They didn't show a whole lot or play that great on offense. The Broncos-Bears game was more of a defensive game, and both teams played really great on defense. Both teams were solid on defense for most of the game. But unfortunately, the Bears got the football in the last minute of the game, and they were able to make a few plays and take the football down the field with 1 second remaining after Mitchell Trubisky made a pass to get into field goal range. But unfortunately, there was only 1 second left. And if you were watching the game when Mitchell Trubisky made that pass to the wide receiver, it looked like time ran out and the game was over. But the officials came to the conclusion that there was 1 second remaining, so the Bears were able to come out with their field goal unit. And unfortunately, the one time as a Broncos fan you wanted the Bears kicker to miss the field goal, like the Bears kicker missed the field goal in their playoff game last season. This was the other opportunity. You wanted the Bears kicker to miss this field goal because this would have been the game-winning field goal and this would have won the game for the Bears. But unfortunately, the Bears kicker made the field goal and the Bears were able to beat the Broncos here in Denver 16-14. The Broncos' next game is against the Packers in Green Bay on Sunday, September 22nd. This is going to be a hard game for the Broncos since it's up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field, and they're going against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Now, I don't know if they're going to have a chance at winning this game, but if they want to win this game, the Broncos are going to have to play great on offense, get in the red zone, not score field goals, score touchdowns, and play very great defense against Aaron Rodgers. If they can't do that, they're not going to beat the Packers in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. This is the third week of regular season football. So right now I'm going to update you with the Week 2 final scores. And I'm also going to tell you the Week 3 schedule and the games to keep an eye on this week. So looking at Week 2 of the regular season, these were the final scores and highlights from this week of NFL football. The Buccaneers beat the Panthers 20-14 on Thursday Night Football. The Ravens beat the Cardinals 23-17. The Cowboys beat the Redskins 31-21. The Colts beat the Titans 19-17. The Seahawks beat the Steelers 28-26. The Lions beat the Chargers 13-10. The Packers beat the Vikings 21-16. The Texans beat the Jaguars 13-12. The Patriots beat the Dolphins 43-0. The Chiefs beat the Raiders 28-10. The Rams beat the Saints 27-9. The Bears beat the Broncos 16-14. The Falcons beat the Eagles 24-20 on Sunday Night Football. And the Browns beat the Jets 23-3 on Monday Night Football. So those were the final scores and highlights from Week 2 of the regular season. Now looking at Week 3 of the regular season, here are the matchups to keep an eye on this week. The Titans versus the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football. The Ravens versus the Chiefs. The Broncos versus the Packers. The Steelers versus the 49ers. The Saints versus the Seahawks. The Texans versus the Chargers. The Rams versus the Browns on Sunday Night Football. And the Bears versus the Redskins on Monday Night Football. In the Week 3 NFL Power Rankings, the current top 10 NFL football teams are the Patriots, Chiefs, Rams, Cowboys, Ravens, Packers, Seahawks, Eagles, Saints, and Chargers. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about college football. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to college football. Colorado lost to Air Force 30-23 in overtime on Saturday, September 14th, up in Boulder, Colorado. Colorado State lost to Arkansas 55-34 on Saturday, September 14th. Colorado goes against Arizona State on Saturday, September 21st. Colorado State goes against Toledo on Saturday, September 21st, up in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is the 4th week of college football. So right now I'm going to update you with the Week 3 college football final scores. I'm also going to tell you the Week 4 college football schedule and the games to keep an eye on this week in college football. So here are the Week 3 final scores and highlights from this week of college football. Air Force beat Colorado 30-23 in overtime. Now looking at Week 4 of college football, here are the matchups to keep an eye on in this week of college football. Number 11 Michigan versus number 13 Wisconsin. Number 8 Auburn versus number 17 Texas A&M. And number 7 Notre Dame versus number 3 Georgia. So in Week 4 of college football, we got some big games and some big matchups between teams that are ranked in the top 25 of college football. So in Week 4 of college football, we finally got big games between teams that are ranked in college football. In the Week 4 college football AP Top 10 poll, the current top 10 college football teams are Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Auburn, Florida, and Utah. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the end of the show. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to the show. What to watch for this week in sports? The Broncos' next game is against the Packers in Green Bay on Sunday, September 22nd. The 3rd week of NFL regular season football, Colorado goes against Arizona State on Saturday, September 21st. Colorado State goes against Toledo on Saturday, September 21st, up in Fort Collins, Colorado. CU Buffaloes, CSU Rams, the 4th week of college football, Major League Baseball. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, and college football. I hope you all have a great weekend. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports through Met Radio here on mymetmedia.com. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.